Welcome to Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Unlearn the Crap TV is more than just a show. It's a movement towards breaking free from the disempowering structures designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many. It's about education, healing, and unlearning the detrimental beliefs that have been ingrained in society for generations. So now, please welcome the host of Unlearn the Crap TV, Kathy Baldwin.
Welcome back to another episode of Unlearn the Crap and Level Up because your soul is calling. My name is Kathy Baldwin, and I am so excited to have my guest, Nikky Golly, here with us today. Nikky, before we get going, I'm going to ask you my signature question, which is for all of those who watch the show on a regular basis. Unlearn the Crap is physical excrement that our body needs to release, how it goes through our lymphatic system and our digestive system. It is the stress hormones. It is all of that which our body does not need or want and doesn't serve us, and we need to release. But sometimes we hold on to it and suppress it, and it creates inflammation and disease. And the other part of Unlearn the Crap is the condition responses and automatic programming. The majority of guests that I have on my show, we focus in on the condition responses and automatic programming. But today we are going to be talking to you more about the physicality of our body in creating the health and wellness. So knowing what my definition of Unlearn the Crap is, Nikky, what crap did you need to unlearn so that you could level up?
Awesome. Great question. Yes, the crap that I needed to unlearn is about actual crap. This is my favorite childhood book. Everyone poops. Yes, everyone poops, because that is the thing that I needed to unlearn. I needed to unlearn the taboo around not talking about crap, because it had made such a huge difference in my life and has made my crazy differences in others' lives. So unlearn the taboos of not talking about what comes out of your body actually physically is probably one of the biggest things. One of them. I guarantee on the other side, the automatic programming, there's been a lot of stuff that I've had to unlearn over the years, but definitely that the taboo of not talking about crap and poop is, I had to unlearn that and be okay with being the poop lady.
Well, that sounds like an amazing segue, Nikky. Could you tell our audience who you are and how you've leveled up and how you serve the world? And then we're going to go deeper into that whole segue conversation.
Yes. I am the poop lady, aka Nikky Golly, talking about digestion and elimination, because most people don't talk about it, and it is key for your body. So talking about elimination, having that conversation, having more energy, and believe it or not, more income. So my ideal, what I talk about is, yes, talking about crap. We're going to talk about crap. We're going to go there. We're going to talk about our digestion, how to make it better, improve it, feel better, and do better within your business. I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. Even if you're working a 9-to-5, you can do more even after work or at work than you ever thought possible when you actually start feeling better and taking care of your digestion. And that all starts with poop.
Yes. Okay, so I am so glad about this, because one of the things that I talk about all the time are the things that society has put on as taboo. Okay. And I believe with every ounce of my being that when society has told us that it is a taboo topic, It is for our disempowerment and their control and their manipulation.
Yeah.
So we're not allowed to talk about sex or religion, which are things that would bond us together or create the ability to address difficult conversations and, find
Yeah.
commonality and understanding and compassion and all these other things if we were able to talk about it. But instead, it's a wedge between us. Why do
Yeah.
you think that our physical excrement and the way our body, the way our body's digestion system works, would be considered so taboo?
I think just because it's kind of gross, right? I mean, when we stopped pooping in the streets and pooping in the woods and actually started pooping in little closets with indoor plumbing, it became more taboo because we could hide it. I think that's kind of where it is. It was like, because it's something that doesn't have to be out in the public anymore, we have indoor plumbing, go hide in a closet, don't talk about it, and just act like life is normal, right? That's kind of my theory. The other piece is that it is like poop is not a glamorous thing. It is not something that you need to be a lady. You don't poop. Like you have to be civilized and you're allowed to eat, but magical fairies suck it out at the other end. Like what? No. Like you actually have to have a bowel movement. That is part of the process. Like I said in the little childhood book, it talks about like everything eats. Everything eats, so that everything needs to digest. We all have digestive systems, and then we have things our body can't use, so you have to poop it out. I think it's just crazy. It's a crazy taboo that I don't think, well, obviously I don't think it should exist anymore, because way more people would be way happier and healthier. And the other crazy thing is, it's colon and rectum cancers are on the rise and happening in younger and younger populations. Actually,
Wow.
according to the American Cancer Society, people that were born in the 1990s, the 1990s are actually twice as likely to develop colon and rectum cancer than people that are born in the 1950s. Like people born in
What?
the 1990s, that's like they're like 30. Most of the people, you think it's like, oh, it's not till you're like 50 or 60 before you even need to do a colonoscopy or pay attention at all, but that's not true anymore.
Okay, so for me,
I kind
most
of I
people,
kind of jumped down a rabbit hole. Sorry.
yeah, no,
But yes.
I want to circle around to this because one of the things that I talk about probably in almost every interview is that I have had adrenal fatigue, osteoarthritis, fibromyalgia. My digestion has suffered from IBS and ulcers and all sorts of issues. And when I went to the root cause in my healing process, I realized that, well, first of all, nobody was allowed to know that I was needed to go. It had to be hidden. I could not use a public restroom. When I traveled, I would get so constipated because the conditions that I would put on where would be an acceptable place for me to do it never really arose. And I
Right.
realized that I had taken on a joke that my mother had shared, which was my mother would say, I'm so perfect that I don't have bodily functions. And it was a family joke. But it wasn't until I looked at the root cause of what I was going through that I realized for 40 years I had been resisting and trying to control and manipulate a body system that has its own cycle and rhythms. And I was letting my thoughts, my beliefs actually create disease in my body.
Yeah.
Which is part of what you're talking about. So why would those in the 30s have such a high rise of colorectal cancer? would you say it's our food source, or are we having more and more beliefs about that not working within our natural system?
Right? I'm not sure that people in their 30s have as many belief systems, just because most grown up with parents that are kind of healing and kind of breaking the crap, the programming and that kind of stuff. I would say more often it's the foods, the convenience foods. We don't have to make food anymore. You can eat at all hours of all times of any day, and it's the ultra processed foods, I think, is really the biggest thing, especially because younger people, like 30s, right? 30s, what, 1990 is what, 35. So someone that's about 35 now. And most of the time it's easy and convenient. They're not living under their parents' house anymore. It's crazy. One of the things that I learned when I was in school for nutrition, it was like the highest population for deficiencies was men between the age of 18 and 35. And it's because they typically not married and they don't live in their mom's house anymore. So they typically have more issues because food isn't a priority for most. Not all, but food isn't a priority, and especially good foods, especially fruits and vegetables, the things that as a mom you always tell your kids to eat. They don't do that a lot. But I would say the rise is even in women, just because it's not something that they pay attention to. It's food, like food's easy, food's cheap. If you go to the convenience store, it's easy. It's ultra processed, has lots of different ingredients in it. Not to mention the like microplastics and stuff in our food, which we're still studying. Like there's so much research on that now, just because it's everywhere. And we're getting so much in so many containers, right? In water
Yeah,
containers and
we've got the
containers.
containers, but we also have the ease of the microwave, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
one of the things that I recently heard about was microwave safe containers does not mean that it is safe for our body. It means it's safe for the microwave.
Yeah, it means it won't melt in the microwave. Doesn't mean it's not gonna put microplastics in the food that you put it in. Yeah, it is a misnomer. We're like, oh, it means it's safe for us. No, not really. It means it won't melt. That doesn't really benefit us in any way. But yeah, the convenience of foods and things that happen easy, right? And we're
So
busy and we're stressed.
yeah,
That's another piece too. I mean, younger and
yeah,
younger populations are stressed. Everyone's stressed. You got to keep up with the Joneses. You got to be on all the Zoom calls. You got to not take any time to go make food because I don't have time for that, right? Those are the things that we kind of need to change. We don't have to be a 5-star chef in the kitchen all the time, but actually having a hand in your food definitely makes a difference.
So one of the things that I've seen so many reports about, we're going to call it the place with the arches.
Okay. I got it.
I don't know if I'm not allowed to talk about it, but you hear about it all the time. But I recently have seen so many reports of people who have taken their food and left it out for a year, and it still looked recognizable.
Yeah.
And another thing I heard was the French fries and how they have 17 ingredients in their French fries. A French fry is supposed to be made of potato and maybe oil and salt. So this whole 17 ingredients.
But they don't last very long, and they don't have this perfect crunch, and there's all these things that we expect of things. Like it's supposed to have this, like it can't turn color. It can't, like, there's all these different things in it to prevent it from sticking together, prevent it from changing any dark colors if they left it in the fryer too long. Like there's so many different things but yeah, if you actually cut, like, French fry should just be a cut potato fried in oil and salt on it. Like that's the original, right? But people come to expect. That is one thing that one of the things I do with my clients is actually have them eliminate certain foods for sometimes. And one of them is wheat. And one that a lot of times it's shocking and most people have no idea, but they typically put flour on French fries because it gives it more of a crispness, like a crunch to it. So then it's like, oh, wait, what? You don't think that French fries shouldn't have anything weird in it? Like you said, that 17 different ingredients in it that are preservatives and anti-caking, but flour is one of them to have that perfect texture. It's like, I
So
don't need a perfect texture. Give me real food, please.
yeah, so tell me, yeah, our taste buds have been altered for sure, and what we expect food is supposed to taste like. But
Yeah.
tell me why flour is so bad, because I know it's not bad in Europe. Is it
No.
the quantity, or is it the chemicals of our processing? Why are we
Yeah.
having so many IBS, celiac disease, Crohn's, all of these things that are happening? And the root cause, I believe, is coming from our wheat.
Yeah. There's a couple different things. The first is overconsumption. Really. Typically wheat is in everything. Like I said, French fries, like that's something that you don't expect it to. But I'm talking about, like, look at breakfast. You have toast, you have pancakes, you have waffles, you have French toast, you have
Cereal.
cereals, you have all of these things contain wheat, all of them. Like the only one that doesn't is oatmeal, but there is cross contamination with most oats with the wheat because they're usually processed on the same machinery that you have wheat. Then you go to lunch and you eat a sandwich most of the time. And then dinner, you have pasta, you have, I mean, there are things that don't, but majority of the time, someone is going to get wheat in their diet every single day, if not every meal. So having that overconsumption all the time combined with the toxins, combined with the inflammation of our system, you get foods and particles of food that actually get into the bloodstream where they never should be. So combine overconsumption with inflammation with, frankly, just having it available all the time and how our wheat is actually processed on top of that. You talk about the processing of wheat, or that wheat is usually sprayed with chemicals. It's sprayed with Roundup or a various version of Roundup, which is a glyphosate. Glyphosate keeps the pests away so the wheat can withstand it. Then the wheat itself has been changed in especially in the United States. The wheat itself has been cultivated to withstand drought. So it can withstand drought, but it also withstands digestion because it's such a hardy wheat. And then it's sprayed with pesticides. So you have a handful of different things that cause all kinds of issues. That, I mean, it's just kind of a perfect storm for our digestive systems. And then they kind of combine that all together, and then you have all these reactions that people have. But not all the time. And the fun thing about, not fun, but in my fun for me, because I'm kind of that scientist, a lot of the people that have been diagnosed with gut issues, typically their favorite food is bread. So therefore they eat a lot of it more than other people, right? More than others. And they combine all those things together. We're stressed, we're inflamed, we're eating foods that's not great. And it's like that perfect storm for gut issues. Specifically,
okay, so
Crohn's. Yeah.
I definitely fall under that category because I was raised exactly like you said. Bread was at every single meal, single meal. And then I loved pasta. And so even though I wasn't raised on it, we had spaghetti like once in a blue moon. My dad was a meat and potatoes guy. But I went to Italy and in Italy, they served pasta as a first course, and it was a very small portion. Where my ex-husband at the time, he was mounting his plate, and they were staring at him because he was mounting his plate the way we would be served here, which is big, huge portions, and they were shocked shocked at the amount of pasta because they don't do that there. But you
No.
said something I need us to come back to.
Okay.
And that was that the wheat is not digestible. What do you mean? How can a food be not digestible?
So think about if they cultivate, I mean, in cultivation, you can change, you can select wheat berries. So a wheat as a wheat berry, you can select wheat berries that are harder. If they're harder, they can withstand not getting moisture. So if they withstand not getting moisture for long periods of time and still are edible, it's better for them as the cultivator of the wheat. But what happens is that it makes it so hard that our body has trouble actually breaking it down. Again,
Even
everything we
though,
need to eat, we need to be able to digest and absorb and assimilate and then eliminate what we can't use. In that process, if you can't break it down, because most of us, let's be honest, myself included, we don't chew near as much as we're supposed to. That's where digestion really starts, is in the mouth. And you're supposed to chew like 30 times. I mean, I'd be shocked if anyone chews more than 10 times before swallowing something. So therefore, you don't have that mastication. We don't have teeth inside our digestive systems. We have little, so we have things to break things down, but we don't have teeth. We don't actually chomp it up. So even when it's ground, a lot of times it's still really hard for our bodies to take what we need out of it.
okay, that's what I wanted to ask, because flour
Yeah.
is ground down. So
Yep.
is it not when it's ground down and it becomes such a fine thing? Because I think that the chewing was based on our meat. You know, as we're eating meat, we have to chew multiple times to break down those fibers so that we can then put them in. But flours is, it's already pulverized and ground down, and you're saying that that's still not good enough for our body.
Yeah. And then the chewing, one of the main digestive enzyme that's actually released in your mouth is amylase, and amylase helps you to break down carbohydrates. So if we're not chewing,
Oh,
we're not actually getting enough of that enzyme to break down the carbohydrate that we're eating. It's not necessarily we need the mastication, which is the chewing for just the fibrous stuff, but actually having enough of that digestive enzyme for our body to then break it down.
so is that, does it, when it breaks down a carbohydrate faster, does that prevent it from turning into glucose? And because they're saying all the time, we're hearing that we should have low carb.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So carbohydrates, no matter if you're chewing or not chewing, that's completely beside the fact as far as
Okay,
your
they're
body
not
breaks
integrated.
all they're not necessarily ready. Your body's going to break down all carbohydrates into glucose because our body uses glucose as energy. Where I think where we could benefit and change the narrative a little bit is instead of demonizing carbohydrates, because carbohydrates are needed. Instead, let's focus on the carbohydrates that are going to benefit us more than others. So so a carbohydrate's a carbohydrate, but there's a carbohydrate from bread, which is wheat and flour and sugar and water, right? There's not a whole lot of vitamins and minerals or fiber in that. Take the other side, you have a carbohydrate from, say, an orange or an apple. In that, it's still a carbohydrate. Essentially, in the interim, it is really just carbohydrates, so both are going to break down into glucose. But the difference that the orange and the apple has is that it has vitamins and minerals that our body needs, and it has fiber. And fiber is the biggest thing to slow down the absorption of the sugar. So it doesn't stop it. So sugar, glucose, I just combine the two words. They are the same thing. But the sugar or the glucose, if it slows down the absorption, it takes longer for your body to break it down and absorb it. the better it is going to be for your system. So instead of demonizing carbohydrates, I think instead I would love the mass population instead to say, instead of carbohydrates are bad, like let's focus on the carbs that are good and let's get more fiber with our carbohydrates. And that's going to make a huge difference.
Okay, I hope you're okay with me challenging you.
Yes.
Because as somebody with fibromyalgia, I've been told over and over again, low carbs, keto, as you know, and one of the doctors that I've studied under, Dr. Ken Berry, he actually says that the carbohydrates that we consume, because our soil has been so depleted, because of all the chemicals and everything, that we're not getting the nutrition from it. And one of the things that he said, and I really want to hear your opinion on this, is if you look at our food cycle, that fruits and vegetables come into season right before fall and winter, which means that it's designed to fatten us up so that we can get through the winter cycle. And so I've been so confused because now that I'm off of all the meds that the doctors prescribed for me for all of the physical. Yes. But I put on a ton of weight and I've been trying so hard to not diet, but to figure out what the root cause of what my body is looking for, because I've yo-yoed my entire life since I was 14 years old. So yes, it's not coming off fast enough, but when I don't want to yo-yo anymore, we know the danger of that. So help me understand the things that I've been learning, because I've been trying so hard to be keto or carnivore, but the weight's not coming off.
Okay. The question for you is, trying really hard means what for you?
Well, let's unpack what I said. What is the truth first about the nutritional value that is in our fruits and vegetables now that we have
there is truth.
Processed them?
There is truth to that we definitely don't have near the vitamins and minerals in our fruits and vegetables anymore. I don't think that's enough grounds to completely demonize them. If you can get stuff closer to home, local, like that kind of stuff. Like I'm more of a locavore, if anything, like try to shop as close to home as possible. If you have friends with trees, plant trees, fruit trees, those kinds of things, like that's really, really powerful. I understand, especially the research that you've been doing, being that keto carnivore, that kind of thing, like focusing on just the meat side of it. Because going back to the inflammation, I talked about inflammation a little bit more. Most of us are massively inflamed. Our guts are inflamed. That's where the IBS, a lot of that IBS, I truly believe, is just a catch-all for the pharmaceutical companies, because it's like, you have gut issues. All right, you have irritable bowel syndrome, or you have IBS-C, you have irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, so it's kind of a catch-all for everyone that has gut issues. But most gut issues come back to, even leaky gut fits in that same category. It comes back to inflammation.
Nikki, those are symptoms, right? They're not the root cause.
No, yeah. And they're all kind of one and the same, like leaky gut, IBS, irritable bowel, like those are things, they're symptoms of your body being inflamed. So all goes back to inflammation. I've talked about inflammation for a long time because we're mostly inflamed and stressed out. Like that's kind of where we sit all the time. And then we go towards drugs or go towards other things because it's always outside of us to fix the things inside of us. Believe it or not, it even comes back to emotions, like talking about crap, like going back to what you said, like the learned programming, all of that crap comes back to emotions and not processing things, not processing grief, not processing, not having that conversation, not being allowed to like bring things up that are uncomfortable. Like death is uncomfortable for most people, but you know what? All of us deal with death. All of us do.
Just like we deal with food.
Exactly. Everybody poops, hopefully every day. But just like that, like everyone deals with it. And there's a lot of unprocessed emotions, which we internalize, which causes more issues within. So we are all one system. We think of like, oh, we're compartmentalize this or work or business or family. And like, no, we're all one system.
Yeah.
Everything affects everything. Your brain,
Yep.
the things in your head, your thoughts affect your digestion. Like we need to kind of come back to that again. That's the unlearning, right? The unlearning the crap, like coming back to that because it really makes a difference. Everything comes together. Everything is part of itself. So
Yeah.
going back to the digestion piece of being inflamed all the time, as we are, if we're inflamed, our bodies aren't going to work right. Inflammation of our gut. Most of the people think like, okay, back up. Let me start over here for a second. If you twist your ankle and it swells up, what happens is it puffs up, right? Once it puffs up, then what happens? It puffs up and it expands. So therefore, white blood cells can go into the affected area easily. So it can transfer through the membranes and heal it faster.
Oh.
Same thing happens with our gut. We
So
swell up.
there's a good purpose to inflammation.
Yeah. Short term is so your body can heal. Again, but what happens with our gut is it inflames, so it swells up. It allows things to get through. Ideally, we want it to be white blood cells to get in to fix the situation. But a lot of times it's that inflammation, and then we're not stopping the thing. We're continually twisting our ankle, essentially. So having that swelling up and then continually twisting your ankle, has it swell up more, has it caused more damage in the long term? And that's what's happening to our guts because we don't pay attention, because we're not in tune with our bodies very much. When we're inflamed, we're eating the food that caused the inflammation. We're continually eating that. So our guts stay inflamed, and having that stay inflammation, instead of just letting white blood cells in to fix it, what happens is it also works the other direction. So then we get those food particles into our bloodstream. And food particles should never be in our bloodstream. It should only be carbohydrates, fats, or the glucose, essentially fats, vitamins, and minerals. It should never be the food that gets into our bloodstream. So causing the inflammation.
Like little pieces of food floating in our blood.
Because we're inflamed. So therefore, that's why the carnivore diets or things like that, because typically we're not eating that way. We're get rid of the inflammatory foods. We're going to be your wheats, even, believe it or not, fruits and vegetables, because our body doesn't normally get that in our system. We have that things floating around in our bloodstream, but our bloodstream, like our body knows, like that's not supposed to be there. So what happens is we create antibodies to attack those foods. Hence, allergies. When your body creates antibodies against something, you start to create an allergy towards it. Then brings up Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, like a lot of these things. So all of those itises. So just a little bit, taking you to school a little bit, anything that ends in itis means inflammation.
Really?
Colitis. Yeah. All of that means inflammation. Itis directly means inflammation.
Okay, so I just flew across time zones this weekend. I flew from the East Coast to the West and West Coast back. And when I came back, my legs and my feet and my hands are still swollen. So I can physically feel the inflammation. I can physically see the inflammation. How do we know that our digestion and our gut are inflamed? We can't see it. How do we feel it?
That's like bloating, quote unquote bloating. When you feel bloated, that's inflammation. But most of the time, most of us are inflamed all the time. So that bloating or that belly is just us.
We've normalized it.
Yeah, like that's normal for me. I always have a belly. What are you talking about? So it's different. I point at my belly. My belly's a lot bigger than it normally is, but there's a baby in there. So then I was like, it's weird. No, sorry. Don't totally caught myself off guard for a second. Pointing. I'm like, why is my? Oh yeah, never mind.
Yeah, that's not inflammation.
That's all. I mean, it's causing inflammation. I guarantee it. My body is in all kinds of weird spaces, but I digress. But yeah, inflammation, like a lot of times we look down and that is just us. So when people go off carbohydrates or get rid of breads completely or go carnivore and just focus on just eating meats, you do notice a lot of people will lose inflammation. They will feel better because they're stopping to eat that thing that's consistently insulting their digestive system. So we kind of
I
went down that.
definitely feel better when I'm on carnivore or keto. My body feels better. I have less brain fog. I have more energy. I sleep better. But when my body isn't releasing the weight, I get, like most people, frustrated and think, well, then I want a piece of bread and I want the wine
Right?
and
Right?
I want these things.
Well, the other thing too is our body, as much as the carnivore gurus won't tell you this, our body runs on glucose. So if you're not taking in glucose, if you're not taking in carbohydrates, and I'm not saying bread, but carbohydrates, if you're not taking in carbohydrates, what your body has to make carbohydrates from the fats you have in your system. It makes it because your body doesn't change over and stop running on glucose all of a sudden. Like your body can run on ketones because your body makes ketones because they're similar to glucose, is which is your primary body fuel. But the positive side of that, again, you're not eating the things that are causing the inflammation that slows things down, and it makes you feel better. But what happens is our bodies, our brains, our bodies are very connected, and you sleep better and you feel better and you have more like acute thinking because your body thinks you're starving. And if you're starving, you need to be smarter. You need to sleep better. You need to heal faster. So
Whoa.
therefore you can get your next meal.
Whoa.
Right? If you go
Okay.
back.
What you just said is so important. And it's the first time I've heard it. And I've spent years and years in research. I need us to back up so that everyone can hear what you just said.
Okay.
Our central nervous system has an on and off switch, the sympathetic to the parasympathetic. When our body is in sympathetic, it shuts down non-vital processes. It shuts down our ability to reproduce, our ability to digest. It changes the way our heart pumps. It changes.
And that's stress. That's your fight or flight nervous system.
Yeah.
Just for people that don't already know.
So while our bodies are doing that through stress, what you just said was when we are calorie deficit or when nutritionally deficit, our body thinks we're starving. And so it's heightening our responses so that we can get out of danger, which is putting us in stress.
Yeah. Essentially.
Oh my God. So, I mean,
but it's a different kind of stress.
In, calories out.
Yeah. It's a different kind of stress, right? It's not a stress of like an overwhelming stress. It's a stress of, I need to find my next meal. I need to find those berries that I found. Like you have to go back to the Paleolithic times, right? It's not all the stuff, how our bodies are designed to work doesn't really fit with our 21st century lifestyle. So that's how we have so many different diets that do different things, and fasting. So fasting does similar things. If you do a fast, specifically, you can do a fast for 3 days. So 72 hours is pretty safe for the general everybody. Up to 72 hours. And what happens the first day, you have to kind of reprogram your mind and be like, I'm doing this on purpose. This is okay. Like I'm not starving. I'm hungry. You gotta go through that. Second day, your energy is a little bit lower because you're depleting your stores of glucose. But the third day, and that kind of works as the same as keto and that kind of thing. That third day, what happens is that our systems change. It moves to burning ketones instead of glucose. And what happens is that, again, you feel like you have more energy. You feel like you can conquer the world. You feel like everything is possible, and you feel like you could think clearer, and things just seem to be easier for you in that third day, is because your body's essentially starving, right? You hit that third day, your body goes, wait, this is the third day. Like, we haven't found food yet. We need to be on top of our game. We need to kill that animal. We need to find those berries. We need to find something so we don't die.
Wow.
And so those things kind of changed within our system. Isn't it
That
fascinating?
makes so much sense. Thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, I haven't talked about this in years. I guess.
Well, I want to go back to poop, okay? You said hopefully once a day. Now,
Yes.
again, we run into how often is normal? What is duration? What are shapes and sizes and colors? We're starting to talk about all of that now. How do we know? Because there's a lot of people who don't look in the bowl.
Right.
How do we know?
And that is one thing that I wish. I mean, it's your body communicating with you, right? Your body's communicating with you all the time. The inflammation is communication. The left hip hurting is communication. Like, all of these things are communicating with you. But poop is a bodily function that your body's communicating with you. Like, is it happening every day? Yes or no? What's the shape? What is the consistency? Is it difficult to push out? Is it happening way too often? Like, these are all kinds of various ends of the spectrum. But the biggest thing is pay attention, one. And you should have a bowel movement every single day. Ideally 2 to 3 times a day. And what that is you're processing, you're getting rid of what your body cannot use. But a minimum of once. 2 to 3 is optimal, but is not that common. I have to admit that there's a few people that achieve that, fantastic, but it's not that common. But at least once a day. And I'm not talking to the little rabbit turds. That doesn't count. That's not a real poop, like an actual getting things out of your body. So I always say this. Sorry for the mental picture in advance.
No. We're do not apologize, because this is the crap that we need to unlearn. We
right,
need
it
this
is.
knowledge.
But
this is exactly what Unlearn the Crap is about.
There you go. I have a mental picture. Again, I always apologize in advance, but it's kind of cheeky, right? But an ideal poop should resemble soft serve ice cream. So that makes a mental picture, right? You can't unlearn that. Dr. Oz coined the term the S-shaped poo. There's only one real poo that can make an S shape, right? In the bowl. So pay attention. If it's, I'm doing lots of thumbs. If it's on one side, if it's like little tiny balls, like I mentioned, rabbit poo, that's constipation. If that's not happening every day, even if those little balls are happening every day, you're still constipated. Your body is not processing things correctly. You're not actually evacuating your entire colon. Then on the other side, if it's loose, if it's watery, that's the diarrhea side. So really, you don't want that. Most people know that part. The constipation side, that's the taboo. That's the crap that most people don't talk about, because diarrhea, you can't really hide. You and me in a conversation, it hits me, I'm gonna run away and go to the bathroom, right? That one's a lot less easy to hide. But more often people deal with the constipation side, and they could deal with it miserable for years because nobody knows. It's that quiet misery that most people don't know, because it's like, I mean, who checks on someone in the bathroom unless you have an intimate connection with the person? You're like knocking on the door, like, you've been in there for an hour, like, are you okay? Like that kind of thing. Not on your cell phone. That's a different piece. That's a different excuse. But having that constipation is a miserable experience. That was where I was for many years. And most people, you don't know, right? That causes so many other issues. So really, that ideal is that in between, that soft serve ice cream, easy to go, doesn't take a lot of energy, be done and be done with the bathroom. Like, but having that conversation with your loved ones, having that just awareness in yourself. Like, if you're not going every day, like, let's talk, let's have let's talk about this. That actually takes me to one of the things that I like to just give away, and just have like a, have you start the conversation with yourself, if you're not as comfortable as I am talking with everybody. But I have a it's called the poop pop quiz. So pop quiz time, just like you're in school. You've made it this far. Pop quiz. Let's figure out where you're at. Promise there's no gross pictures, but on my website, actually, there's a link, but it's just nikkygolly.com. It's on the front page. It says, take your quiz, see where you're at. And then I kind of go into some questions to get you to really think about where your digestion is, and then have you total up the score to figure out where you're at, where you lie, if you're taking care of yourself well, you're feeling good, or if there's some work to do. And so I just wanted to kind of gift that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, because that is one thing that is so important for us to be able to understand the information that our body is telling us, because that is exactly what Unlearn the Crap is about. Is we are being fed so much information on a constant basis, energetic, physical, all sorts of, and we need to understand what our body wants. So
yeah,
what is optimum? What is optimum as far, and I have another question. So let's save that question right now, because I have one question that I really want to know. Belly fat.
Okay.
We hear about all sorts of different fats. You know, if it's in our hips and our thighs, it's good. But we have a society of belly fat, whether it's men with the big round belly, or the beer belly, or as my father would call it, the Molson muscle. He's Canadian, so or he was Canadian. But then women, you know, we have the pouch, the pooch, whatever you want to call it. And that, how do we get rid of that when that is really inflammation and stress, isn't it?
A lot of times it is inflammation. A lot of times it is stress. There is fat. The other thing about the crap, kind of unlearning some of that super skinny model is not healthy. That's the other piece of the coin that most people don't talk about. Everyone wants to be super rail skinny and fit into their skinny jeans and have no fat. But if you actually look at longevity kind of scales or longevity tests and things like that, that having some fat is actually beneficial. It's not great. And that spare tire, that middle, like, we definitely overdo it a little bit, and we probably could lose. That belly fat is worse for us than other fats. But fat in general is not the worst thing for us. Like, I thought one of the weirdest things and most fascinating things in school is that, you know, how on the scale you have underweight, you have normal, you have overweight and obese. Like, on that scale for the BMI. The study that they took all of that information from, if you actually looked at the study, the people that had a longer life and a healthier life were in the normal to, not obese, but normal to overweight category. Wow. So what are we really trying to achieve? Are we trying to be skinny? Because skinny, it was actually worse than obese for longevity.
Wow.
Which, again, nobody talks about. I thought that was one of the biggest eye opener, like, mind blowing things that I learned when I was in school. And the narrative hasn't changed. I learned this in school, but nobody else did, or nobody else. I guess it just doesn't fit the narrative, because that's not what's beautiful. That's not what's considered beautiful. It's the model skinny, and even the models aren't even that skinny. That's the model, as well as AI, or well as Photoshop, to get rid of all the excess stuff. Like, that's not even normal. Like, let's stop that crap, and let's talk about what's really good for us.
Absolutely. When you go back into history about beautiful people, we went
Yeah.
from a very robust, because if you were robust, that meant that you were successful. You could feed
Yeah.
yourself, you could
Yeah.
eat. And it was those who were underweight that were the poor people because they couldn't afford food. And
Yeah.
now, for some reason, we have morphed into
Yeah.
this place where our physical appearance is more important than the quality of life, the health and longevity that you've talked about, which is
Yeah.
so important. And I'm so glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
Nikki, there are so many more topics that we could talk about.
Yeah, this
And
has been great.
our time has flown by. I know that there are a lot of people who are listening to us and they're like, okay, I now understand that there is so much I don't know. There's so
Right.
much more I do need to know. And you, as the nutrition expert, who are the clients that you work with that if someone hears, oh, she can help me, and how do they reach you?
Yeah. Honestly, if you're far off that scale, I'm not talking about once in the blue moon, but if you're not pooping good, if you're not pooping every day, like let's have a conversation. If that little rabbit turds or that uncomfortable or bloated all of the time, it affects a lot more than just your digestion, right? I mean, we've talked about a handful of different things, but it affects so much. Comes to your energy, comes to the way you show up, how you're perceived by others, that kind of thing. Just because everything comes back to your digestion. When you're
Yeah.
digesting better, you start feeling better and everything kind of falls into place. And then, of course, you make more money, which is amazing. And who doesn't want to make more money? So, if anyone really, my favorite, both I work with, but my favorite is people that are constipated because that was my journey for so many years. So, if you're, a lot of my clients come to me and they'll go to take tests at the doctors, and the doctors are like, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. Your labs are great, but you just don't feel good. You don't feel good. You're not pooping every day. You're not like, or you're going way off and you're pooping 20 times a day and you don't feel good. Like, let's have a question. Let's have a conversation. First thing, to go take that poop quiz. That'll kind of give you an idea of what's normal and what's not normal. And then, honestly, just to sweeten the deal, for the first 10 people that do it, to give you a little motivation, like get off your butt and like go to nikkygolly.com, first page, do your poop quiz. For the first 10 people that actually do it, I will gift my time to you just because I'm that kind of person. I'd love to help. And so I will go over on a one-on-one call, go over those quiz results with you, completely complimentary. Normally I charge $247 for it, but really going into that quiz to give you some actionable steps that you really can take to start feeling better, like now, instead of in a month or 2 or 10. Like, let's start making a difference now, because you're worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when they
So
reach out to you, do you want them to say that they saw you here on Unlearn the Crap?
definitely, yes, please, yes, tell me where you heard me. Yes, reach out to me. Get on my website. Yeah, send a message and be like, oh, I heard you on Unlearn the Crap. Like, wow, my dad, did you open my eyes to a lot of things? Or, oh my God, that was a fire hose. Whatever. I'll take all the responses. But let me
Well,
know. Let me know.
I'm sure we did a lot of fire hosing here because
I
we've
typically
talked
do.
about everything. And the one thing that I really want everyone to really pay attention to, and it is part of my absolute message, is that everything matters. And when you talk about the correlation between poop and how healthy and how successful and how wealthy we are, it is all interconnected. We are interconnected, interrelated beings that are living within an interconnected, interrelated system. And we must pay attention to all of it. Nikki, thank you so very much for all of
Thank
this
you.
information, for everything you're doing, for not being ashamed to talk about our poop and the crap that we're dealing with, so that we can all level up and become the best versions of ourselves.
This has been Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Tune in each week as Kathy challenges you to rethink everything you know about personal empowerment and societal structures. Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.